this is David at Stoneyard.com. We're here today to talk about the proper attachment of the thin veneer onto a prepared surface. We have a bag of Laticrete Hi-Bond Veneer Mortar, and this mortar is what we recommend. It has 500 pounds of stick, so it's a really good cement. Type S has a 50-pound stick. This is 10 times the strength. What are we gonna need? We're gonna need a mixer, a trowel, some stones. I'm gonna attach the corners first, then a flat piece, some good, cold, clean water. So I've dumped a little bit of the Hi-Bond Veneer Mortar into this bucket. Let's go ahead and mix it. All right, so I've got my Hi-Bond Veneer Mortar in the bucket. I've got some fresh water. We're gonna keep dumping in small amounts of water until we get this Hi-Bond Veneer Mortar to a mashed potato consistency. So it's important that we don't have any dry clumping on the bottom. So I'm using my trowel to look at the very bottom of the bucket. Everything looks great. So I'm basically at the consistency of, mashed potatoes. So now I'm gonna mix it for an additional 2 minutes. So I've mixed it for about 2 minutes. I want to let it rest for about 30 seconds here. And the reason we're letting it rest, you guys, is this cement could have been made up to a year ago. There could be areas that are so dry that the first dose of water doesn't get into it. So we're letting it absorb, we're letting the chemical reaction occur. There's 22 ingredients in the Hi-Bond. We want to make sure that it's all working. So we've let it rest for a little bit, and we can let it rest for 5, 10, 15 minutes. The important thing is we want to mix it one more time for about 30 seconds. So this Hi-Bond Veneer Mortar is really, really sticky. So we want to put it in some water. Okay, so I've got my mortar. I'm just checking it one more time. Looks good. Let's go ahead and attach our first stone. All right, so this consistency is perfect. Notice a lot of times you'll tap the edge of your trowel on the bucket, and as long as it's sticky like this is good. This cement, the manufacturer Laticrete says it's good for 40, 45 minutes. I generally find after about 20 minutes it starts to stiffen up. And yes, you can remix it with the mixer, but we don't want to add more water because that will weaken the mix. Okay, so this is perfect the way it is. We're going to install the corner first. So this is good and clean. The surface I'm attaching to is good and clean. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to key in the back of the stone. So we're just taking a small amount of cement, the Hi-Bond Veneer Mortar, not cement. So what we're doing right now is we're putting a thin layer on, okay? And we're keying it in. We're gonna do the same to the area that we're gonna be setting this on. Okay, again, a thin amount. And I always like to go a little bit beyond where I'm expecting the stone to go. Okay. And then remember, we're dealing with a corner piece, so I got to get this back corner. Okay, so now we've got maybe 1/4 inch of cement up on the wall, 1/4 inch on the back of the stone. I like a little bit more, okay? So, you know, maybe we'll add another 1/4 or so to the back of the stone. And the reason there is to make sure there's enough cement to deal with any inconsistency with the thickness of when we cut this stone. So remember, we want to slide it at least 1.5 inches. So we're going to come right into where we're going to put it. We've got it the right way, so we've got a short side, a long side. What you can't see, this is a long side, then a short side. We put it tight, move it at least 1.5 inches and come back. Grab a spacer or two. And we want to make sure that we've got a little gap between this stone and that stone. Hi-Bond veneer mortar will tend to slide, so you need the spacers to hold it into place so later when we're grouting, okay? And then the stone is in place. We want to be sure that we have an adequate amount of cement, and we clean up some of the excess cement. And right now we have plenty on the back. It's oozed out of the sides a little bit. I'll check the back side. Cleaning up some of the excess mortar. And that is good to go. Okay, so we've got the corner in. Now let's do the same thing to this flat piece. I always like to key in the back of the stone first. Again, the stone needs to be clean and dry. It can be wet, damp, but don't spray water on it just before you put the mortar on, otherwise the mortar wants to slide off. So a nice clean surface. We're keying in this area. So remember, we always put the corners in first and then the flat pieces, which is exactly what I did here. So I've keyed in both areas. Now a little extra. You don't need as much extra on the flats as you do the corners, just because of the inconsistency of the corners. But with the flats, so maybe I have about 3/8. It's going to compress to about 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit less. So again, 1.5 inches and back down, okay? And again, we want a spacer or two to be used in here. Okay, so that's on. It's oozed out the tops and the sides. You know, you could have hit it more if you didn't have enough. This Hi-Bond will take overnight to dry, and then once that's happened, I can then pull the spacers out. So Hi-Bond veneer mortar made by Laticrete, really good and strong. It's what we recommend. This will stay on forever. This is David at Stoneyard.com.